Hey, IT Nation, Sean Lardo here with another episode of the Wise Up Podcast. I'm on with my good friend, the star of the hour, the extreme owner of IT Nation Secure, which was a great event for us all not that long back, Matt Topper. Hello, Matt Topper.
Hey, Sean. Oh, off to a good start today. How's it going?
I
lost my voice from Secure. That's the issue.
You know what? You did a lot of talking, which you never stop talking. So congratulations on that. Yes. So we're here today, though, to talk about the Wise Up Podcast with another guest today. For those that don't know, Matt, what is the Wise Up Podcast?
So the Wise Up Podcast is a place to just hear people's stories, take actionable takeaways back to your business, really just learn about what's happening in the IT channel and get some utility back to your business. Really, it's all about finding value and hearing and meeting people you wouldn't otherwise come across.
Absolutely. And I would say we've had some really good guests, and we've been able to share a good. It's difficult to be able to find the people that can share various stories, but I think we've done a very nice job with our guests so far that represent every avenue of the business, even.
Every avenue, and I think we've done a very good job of highlighting guests that you wouldn't necessarily know about or see if you just went down the list of who spoke at conferences and things like that.
That's a great segue into all this today. Yes. And I feel like today's guest actually represents that. She's been around for quite some time. We as we were getting ready for the green room, we were discussing the fact that she's been doing this, and the comment I made was she's been like the black ops stealth person in the space for years.
That's the new title, right? Whatever her title is, it has to be that now.
Right. She's been doing this for years, doing business in the space, and everybody seems to know her, and she's successful. I've never heard one negative thing about her or what she does as a livelihood or at all. But yet she's never been the headliner on stage at any event that I'm aware of.
Well, I mean, you said it, stealth black ops, just doing amazing work in the background.
Absolutely. So with that said, we must get her up here since this is what it's really about her today. So let's bring on Rayanne. She's of ABC. She's also a pitch contestant this year. Let's bring her up now. Hello, Rayanne.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. So do you approve of our title of you now at this point?
I love it. I'm going to have to update the website. So Black Ops, what was the last part?
Stealth Black Ops.
Stealth Black Ops. That's it. Okay. So when the next time you get to my website, you're going to see my new name.
Nice.
And I will credit you.
New business cards and all that.
Absolutely.
Do people use business cards?
We were just talking about that. I can't think. I don't have any. I don't know anyone who actually does still have them.
I know a couple people that do, but very few vendors do now. I think MSPs still do, simply because the way they do business. Well, first off, when they come to conferences, they want to put their card in your fishbowl so they can win a prize. So they already know they should bring a business card. And two, they deal with a lot of mom and pop old school businesses that still believe in brick and mortar businesses are not. There's a big difference. Like if you have a conversation with a restaurant owner that's been old school, been around for a while, the way they see that you're relevant and you're a real business is based off a brick and mortar location. If you don't have that, they're like, you're not real, you're pretend. So so yeah. But enough about that. Question for you. How long have you been in the business for, Rayanne?
Well, I actually just crossed my 20-year anniversary. Actually, that was this past week. So 20 years ago, I walked into the office. I was working at a CPA firm here in Florida, and May's knocking all the way down the hallway as I walked in and quit my job. And prior to that, I talked to a bunch of friends, and one of my clients at the time was a priest, and I literally picked up the phone and I called him, just before I went in and quit my job, and he talked me off the ledge. He was like, "Go ahead, you can do this," and so with 4 clients and $50 in my savings account, I quit my job because I had an idea. And here I am 20 years later.
Although Matt's having coffee. He's not ready for this yet, by the way, you can tell.
Also, the problem is it's not Dunkin'.
Oh, God. No, we're not getting into this. Rayanne, just so you know, Matt thinks Dunkin' Donuts coffee is like the best coffee.
Really?
Did you said that
really? Down at the bottom of my list of coffees.
Oh no.
Me too. That's what I said. Like, thank you.
It was going so well.
Thank you, Rayanne, for the voice of reason.
Sorry, Matt.
So, as I say, you're a CPA.
I am not. I'm actually what's called an enrolled agent, and that means I'm enrolled to practice before the IRS, and my license is nationwide. So I'm not restricted in the areas where I can represent people. So as an enrolled agent, that means I'm a tax professional. I've spent my entire adult career in public accounting, and prior to that, well, not prior to that, right? Because my entire adult career is but before I started ABC, which by the way stands for Accounting, Business, and Computing Solutions, ABC Solutions. So my vision was to bring my accounting knowledge, my bookkeeping or my business knowledge, and my IT knowledge to have one solid solution for small businesses. And so that's how I got started. I was doing a lot of paper bookkeeping, checkbooks to computer accounting systems. And so I did a lot of those. And then I saw a client of mine get completely ripped off by some IT company. I don't know their name, thank goodness. So I can't throw them under the bus. But anyway, I went in and he showed me the four servers, and the 3 workstations that he just built for his, office of 3 people, and spent $35,000. And so I went back to the partner and I said, we're missing an opportunity. Off to MCSE school I went, got my certifications, my Microsoft certifications. Then SBS came out onto the scene and that product sold itself. And so I was running the SBS user group in the Tampa Bay area. And then I started helping my SBS user group members connect their PSA to their QuickBooks. And that's when the light bulb went off. I thought, if these guys need this, I'll bet you there's quite a few others. And so that started my focus toward the IT community. And then I started writing articles and I started speaking at shows. I think, Sean, you and I met as I was doing a speaking circuit for the ASCII group back in 2019 or something. I want to say it was 2019.
Yes, it was a while ago. And it was,
So, and so I've spent the last 20 years like building new processes. We built chart of accounts. We figured out how the MSPs do their invoicing, how they do their accounting. We know all of their vendors. We know, where their margins should be. And so we take all of those little pieces that I've built over the last 20 years and we offer a solution. And that's how I got here.
Do you find yourself frequently talking to the stereotypical engineer turned business owner trying to figure out the finance side of it along the way? What's that like? Are you able to help them like see the light and how to do this properly?
That's a great question. And I want to say that the answer is it depends. It really depends on their mindset and where they are in their business cycle, because so often, the engineer has that, what did Michael Gerber call it? The entrepreneurial seizure, that they can do things better all on their own and they start their own business, right? So And so they do, and they think that they can, run everything better than their boss did because their boss was an idiot. And so, and they are there realizing all of the things that go into running a business. But they will, flounder about and try and figure it out all on their own for a couple of years. And as their business begins to mature, they've figured things out long enough, but as they start to get larger and they hire new people, then they're beginning to realize the procedures, the processes they had in place when they were 2 people don't work when you're 5, and they really don't work when you're 10 people and larger. So if you've got this vision, like, hey, I think I can grow this thing, but I don't know how to, get out of my own way. I've got, we have a bottleneck here, we have a bottleneck here, and all of these other bottlenecks over there. And that's when they come to us. And then we systematically walk them through the better way.
So you talked about a couple of things within one of that, maybe, and things that really sparked interest to me. One is you have to sort of coach them and teach them how to do things because they don't know, maybe, or look at the word best practices is so misused, I think, or it's just so watered down. But the reality is there are processes that you need to adhere to improve, to grow, right? Then you also mentioned operational maturity without really saying it, because like you said, the difference between a 1 and 2 man to a 10 to 15 person business to a 20 person business, it changes. So how do you go about, I guess, helping them to reconcile there's better ways, and 2, how to prepare for scaling operational maturity aspects?
Okay, so the first thing, this is going to sound terrible.
Are they mutually inclusive and exclusive at the same time, maybe?
Correct.
Yeah.
So when people pick up, when an IT person picks up the phone or sends me an email and says, hey, my bookkeeper got really sick, or my bookkeeper just left unexpectedly and I need some help. And then they invite me in and I show them, the information that they're not getting out of their financials. I'll just click on a number and I'll say, you see that? That looks like a product to me. Why is that sitting in recurring services, right? So what's your margin on your products? Or I'll click on this number. Why is your product purchases higher than your product sales? I'm pretty sure you're not doing this at a loss. And so once I start to point out some of those really simple things, like, you don't have to understand accounting or numbers or anything like that to see that, something is really wrong. And then I walk them through our process of cleaning up the numbers and making sure that everything is in alignment, right? And that opens the door to, hey, talk to me about your service delivery and your SOPs. And, let's talk about, how you plan to scale and, what's your end goal for the next 3 years. So when I start to ask those leading questions, then I get a better idea of what they want to do in their business. And then we can have the conversation about how to get there one by one. We actually have like a baseline assessment we'll ask clients to take just to give us an idea as to, where they are in their operational maturity, their finance understanding, their scalability, their marketing plans, and that sort of thing.
I love that. So one thing that I have to ask, and because you mentioned the assessment, are you assessing? What are you assessing? Like, is there like a top 2-3 things that you say we're going to review A, B, and C at a high level? Which how can be A, B, C? So we're going to review A, B, C. So meaning we're going to evaluate your spend on employees, your spend on products and services, and stuff like that, because I'm assuming you're talking about the difference between P&Ls, right? Ultimately.
Actually, no. The initial assessment is organizational wide, right? Okay. So, there's a section on, your organizational structure, your team culture, your, meeting cadence, your operational, plan, and that sort of thing. And so mission, vision, values, like how much of this stuff is documented, like some of that core stuff. And then we also ask about, and by the way, the MSP is rating themselves on a scale of 1 to 10. How well do they think they have these things? And so when we receive those answers, we provide in turn a strategic action plan for them to, get their whole organizational house in order. We ask about service delivery, SLAs. We ask about time management. We ask about financial management. So we're covering all of it.
Nice. I'm done, Matt.
You done, Sean?
I get excited.
So I want to get back into the conversation we started having pre-show, and to provide context, we started going down the road of what regulation looks like in this industry. It's an interesting intersection of the financial world and the MSP, the service provider world. There really isn't a lot of regulation, certainly not a lot that's compelled, right? There are some voluntary things that you might want to advertise for sake of bring clients in and bringing new businesses in. But I just want to kind of leave it open, and let me hear your thoughts on what you think either the industry might need in terms of regulation, or maybe what you think the future reality looks like that might be different from what you think the industry needs. And we can just go from there.
Sure. So just to add a little bit more context, that conversation started with the PE-backed MSP acquisitions that are happening, and they are happening all over, all over the world at this point. So we started talking about, the correlation between, MSPs that are getting larger and larger and the accounting industry, where we have now, we started with the big 8, we went down to the big 4, then there was like the big 2, and I think now we're back to the big 10. And so if you start to think about the IT mergers and acquisitions that are happening from the PE back, will there be a big 10, a big 8, or a big 4, ultimately at the end of all of this? So that got me thinking, well, accounting firms are regulated by the AICPA and, the State Board of Accountancies. There's so many regulations for auditing and, attestation and all of those things. Where is the regulation for IT and cybersecurity? And if we don't do something, somebody's going to do it for us. So the best thing that we could do, as a profession in the, IT industry, especially the cybersecurity, is come up with the code of ethics and, a baseline standard of these things are accessible, and so one of the things I was saying earlier is that, what is to prevent some, North Korean to pretend that, he's an American and apply for a remote job, and dupe everybody. And by the way, that happened, so, what would happen if he ended up getting that job and was placed into a position, where he had the access to do really bad things to a lot of companies out there? What would happen?
That's
Yeah.
That's a great rabbit hole to dig into, because the primary question and the difficult thing I think that people can't really work to decide on is where's the liability fall between. You use your example of the remote worker or North Korea, depending on what company they work for. So if they work for a vendor, the vendor hires them, but the vendor provides products to MSPs, but the MSPs are supposed to own the delivery and support to the end user. Even with the person from North Korea that's involved, the onus would still, if the end user is affected, who has responsibility? And we know that's been a battle for the last umpteen years, because it's It's the same as saying a dentist that gets their equipment from a place, they misuse the equipment. Who's at fault? The dentist, not the equipment provider, right? And but again, though, but if the person at the vendor level is the one that's pushing through something and they don't know of some sort, you're again, who's it? That's
only the first problem.
Right. I'm saying this is a great debate to have at one point. Like that should be what's on stage in front of everybody, is that debate, because everybody would love to know how to, and see who wins.
Well, so let's talk about that MSP that pushed that, malicious code out.
Yep.
So let's think, if we think about that for just a minute, that that person, that MSP, or that, that company is being held to a standard to keep their people safe, their customers safe. The customer relies on them for the security, and they are being held to a standard that nobody has defined.
Correct.
Right?
That's correct.
So, so we've got 290 some thousand MSPs in this country, all doing something different because there's no standard as to what.
I would agree. And I would go to the other half of it too, though. As a result, too, though, vendors, there isn't, in order for you to, I'll give you a simple example. I have a license to go to a place called Restaurant Depot. In order to be able to go buy stuff from Restaurant Depot, I had to have had at one point a business that actually qualified through OSHA and everything else to sell food, right? In order to get this, right? So I get discounted prices. There isn't anything in our space, even for vendors, that we can only sell to this group of people. So it's like there are so many different factors involved there and the checks and balances are not necessarily there.
Your hairdresser and barber, they have to be licensed.
Correct. Yep,
you need
exactly.
a license to cut hair, but not provide cybersecurity.
Well, man, Matt, how's that make you feel being the cybersecurity guy?
I mean, we've talked about this 100,000 times, and the question always comes down to what's the enforcement mechanism for any kind. I think as an industry, we actually could agree on a standard. That probably wouldn't be the hardest thing. But
yes,
think about all the other things, things we're familiar with in terms of regulatory, right? A classic easy one is like PCI, right? You have to pass your audit or you can't take credit cards. There is no equivalent to open a business and call it an MSP, right? There's no licensing board. There's no government audit. Even if there was a licensing board and there have been some attempts at coming up with certifications, nobody's hiring based on having that or not anyway.
Yep.
So what does this look like in the future, right? What's the gatekeeper of this? Is it necessarily some kind of government agency? Is there an opportunity for it to self-regulate? And I realize that's a question we've struggled with as an industry for the past 20 years or so. So we're not going to solve it in the next 25 seconds, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, I know that the National Society of IT Service Providers, they began the conversations with CISA, the Cyber Insurance Government Agency, and so they're really trying to bridge that gap between the government and the IT, and their goal is to elevate IT providers into a profession. And so anyway, take a look at the nsiTSP.org and see, if this is an organization. I know that also CompTIA, which is now global.
GTIA.
GTIA, thank you. And
specifically not GTIA.
Not GTIA, no.
So, and perhaps they are doing something. I know that they used to have a legal advocate when they were CompTIA, and I don't know to what extent they are still doing things. So there are organizations out there, and maybe all of these organizations just need to come together and, and develop that standard and roll the standard out along with continuing education. because you can't just get certified once and think that you're going to know it for the rest of your life, because it changes. It changes every day. It changes every year, you know. And anyway, those are my thoughts.
No, I agree. I know that GTIA was going down that path, and even actually ConnectWise was going down the path with them even for a while there. And I think they still are trying to work on it, where they were talking about certifying or getting what's the word I'm looking for colleges.
I mean, we still are going down that path with the Trustmark initiative. It's just that
I know,
it's subject to that same issue we talked about before. You don't have to have it, and clients aren't demanding it.
Correct, exactly. So, well, I know that ConnectWise and GTIA was going down the accreditation path for the education to get these courses they get accreditation for it, because then it becomes well, according to the whole U.S., if you're not accredited as an education institution, then you're not really an education institution, which is weird, but that's what we go by. So I know we started on that path a long time ago, and I don't know where it ended up, but I'm pretty sure probably with the acquisition and change of GTIA, that probably stalled it a little bit, but I imagine they're going to get back to it.
It's still active as far as I know, just not there yet.
Right. So yeah, no, I love this. I mean, like I said, this would be a great debate on stage too, because even, we also have.
Invite me, please.
Right. Well, I mean, how ideal would it be? Because we have mutual friends that are attorneys in the space that talk about the third-party protection between contracts and terms and conditions to protect from both sides for the MSP and the vendor.
Right.
And even that is a sticky conversation, and attorneys, God bless them, they're always so black and white about it, that these are just the rules. And it's like, those are the rules today. They're today's rules, not tomorrow's rules, or not yesterday's rules,
And they were not always a rule. Somebody had to make it.
Yes.
Exactly, and so I think that'd be a great piece to have. Matt, secure next year. That's your keynote.
Yeah, we already got that figured out. It's not far after the last one.
Yeah, we'll have an actual debate on this, because if you bring an attorney up, they'll argue in front of everybody. They don't care.
No argument there.
It's
my catchphrase.
I'm aware. So coming back full swing now, full circle here, back to your business and what you guys do, and how you've been like the silent killer in the background. How did you grow? How did you maintain and grow the business? Because again, you did speaking with ASCII, but you've never really been out there. You've never been like hugely exposing yourself everywhere. So, and a lot of vendors, they struggle growing their business if they don't get maximum exposure. So how are you able to actually stay the course and maintain business?
That's a really interesting question, because again, I'm not sure, so I have some really, really great friends that have supported me for a long time. And some of them are very vocal and, and prominent in the IT community. So I think my name has gotten out that way. Plus, and by the way, it's not for lack of trying. Every time I see a call for speakers, I've got a topic, and I try to push it out there and hope that somebody will put me on stage. So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's okay. The pandemic just provided so much growth. We grew so quickly. In 2019, I think I had 5 people on staff, including myself. Now we're at 18 people on staff. Like, it just kept growing and growing. And, we were doubling in size. And I felt every bit of the pain that an MSP does when they're going through the same thing. My processes didn't work. I had a bunch of people all doing different things, no standards, and so I literally said, okay, everybody stop. Well, we're not going to take on any more clients. We've got to get I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but we've got to get our shit together. Otherwise, this is just not going to work. And so we started building SOPs. We started, really honing in on the documentation, and every meeting documented, every client, every need, everything. There's a process for everything. Carl Palachuk has been, promoting the a process for everything for years and years, and it finally clicked for me. And I was like, yep, he's right. You need it. So that's how we did it. And if it's okay, I'd like to just roll that straight into why and how we got into Pitch It this year. But which, by the way, thank you very much for selecting us. So over the last couple of years, as we're building up all of these, all of these processes, clients started asking us if we could help with their procurement. And for years, I always said, no, we can do practically everything, but you don't want us buying your computers, I promise, right? Well, then we started building a process for it. And we've got ConnectWise expertise on staff. We've got other PSA expertise on staff. And a handful of them have like 10 years of procurement in helping MSPs, manage the procurement. So, and I'm like, okay, well then how do we sell this? Because I don't really want to charge additional fees. And so we developed a system to white label the quotes, right? So we're doing the entire quote to cash. We call it managed procurement solutions. We're doing the entire quote to cash. The PO, we're doing the deal registrations. We're tracking the POs. We're doing the receipts. We're doing the RMAs, all of that for a procurement fee that the customer pays and not the MSP.
Wow. That's okay. So since I have this question and I've been trying to figure it out, maybe you know it, considering what you're doing there with procurement and whatnot, I'm trying to figure out, what do you think the average spend is per MSP on like products and services to run their business, not to sell through, like not buying Dell laptops, but like just COG stuff. Do you think you have an idea on that? Like,
I'm going to say on the average, before direct labor, you're looking at about 30% spend on direct tools.
Is that 30% spend of their annual revenue or 30%?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. That's because that's a question nobody really, again, when I'm doing COGS, I need to know, like, there's labor, we know that exists. Then there's third party spends, tools, and it's a joke that I make when I do a lot of the new first time attendee to our events. I always say to them, we know you're excited here. We know you're talking to a lot of really good vendors that have really good products. Don't buy 10 products while you're here this week, and you can only use 2. Because it happens all the time, right? They get excited, they go, they buy, like, yep, I want one of those. It's like a kid in a candy store. And then they walk away, and the COO of their company is always yelling at them, which is the most hysterical thing. So, like, why'd you buy all this? You can't do anything with it. So 30% of, I like that. That's
I'm going to say, probably no less than 25%, certainly no more than 33%. And you're right, that whole, we call it vendor sprawl. If you've got multiple vendors doing many of the same things, and, this vendor is with these 5 clients and this vendor is with these other 25 clients. And so there's just too many moving parts. And the best thing an MSP can do is really standardize their tool stack.
Nice. Okay.
All right, so we're just about out of time, but we have time for one more question. We ask this to everyone who comes on the show, and in the form of a habit, and I think in this case it should be a habit that they should break. What's something that business owners, MSPs in general, should stop doing to try and get their finance or reporting under control?
The number one thing that an MSP could do is to take a seriously hard look at their team and make sure that they are properly staffed, that the people, just because they've been with you for 5 years doesn't mean that they belong with you, for the next 5 years. So holding on to employees longer than they are providing value to the company is a margin killer, hands down.
I love that answer.
I love it. That's better than I thought we were going to get.
We know a lot of people that can take that. we know a lot of people that can take note of that. So I really appreciate that. Awesome. Yes, we are out of time. Rayanne, thank you so much. I feel like we could have talked another 3 hours on all this stuff, but we just don't have that kind of time. But I wish we did.
Right. And, you and I, we could talk for hours, but will anybody listen for 3 hours?
Probably not. Probably not. But I don't care if they listen to that
for having me on your podcast today.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate your time and all that you do for the community. Thank you.
Absolutely. Matt, anything else we want to end this with?
No, I think that's perfect. Let's end it on that piece of advice.
Absolutely. Well, Rayanne, good talking to you again. Good luck on Pitch It this year, and we'll look to see you soon here.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you all.